Okay, so these guys, Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller, these are the propositions which they came up with. Today, I want to introduce the first argument, MM1 without access. That is the one I want to introduce today. Next class, I'll go through MM2, MM3, and MM4, summarize and finish. MM1 of the year 1958. This is MM without access. I've already said M stands for Modigliani and Miller. In the first theoretical article, Capital Structure, in the year 1958, Modigliani and Miller did not include taxes in their model. And that's why this argument is referred as MM without access. Now, this is a capital structure irrelevance theory. First important issue that you have to pick is a capital structure irrelevance theories. I think last time I explained when we talk about capital structure relevance, capital structure irrelevance, I clarified what it is. When we say capital structure is irrelevant, when we say capital structure is irrelevant, I think I clarified that a capital structure decision is said to be irrelevant if a capital structure change will have no effect on value of the firm, no effect on the value of the firm, and no effect on weighted average cost of capital. Please let's remember that argument. When we say a capital structure decision is irrelevant, then a capital structure change shall have no effect on value of the firm and shall have no effect on weighted average cost of capital. So the first theory of Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller, that is a MM1 without taxes, is a capital structure irrelevance. That is what is the first very important point. And therefore, according to Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller, where there are no taxes, a capital structure decision is irrelevant. Capital structure has no relationship with value, but rather capital structure does not affect value. Capital structure does not affect weighted average cost of capital. That was the argument, that if taxes don't exist, then a capital structure decision is said to be irrelevant. For that reason, a capital structure change will have no effect on value of the firm and will have no effect on the firm's weighted average cost of capital. MM went further to point out that in the absence of taxes, unlevered firm and a levered firm should command same value at equilibrium. A levered firm and unlevered firm should command equal value at equilibrium. The point which Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller refer to as equilibrium. Similarly, at this equilibrium, these firms should have equal weighted average cost of capital. Ukiangalia in the document that I shared with you, the notes, self-explanatory notes that I've shared with you, I think that is one point that I've emphasized. According to Franco Modigliani, a levered firm and unlevered firm should then have same value. In other words, it does not matter how a company is financed. Unlevered firm is one which is financed solely by the use of equity, unlevered. Some people like using the word unlevered or ungeared farm. unlevered is a company which is ungeared. Company has no debt. When you talk about unlevered or ungeared, what it means, the company has no debt. Or you can put it differently, that a company is financed solely. Company is financed solely using equity. If a firm is unlevered, then it means they have no debt in their capital structure. In that case, company is said to be financed solely by the use of equity. That is unlevered, no debt in the capital structure. And I think one thing is very, very clear, ladies and gentlemen. If a company is financed solely by the use of equity, then the market value of equity, the market value of the firm, is the market value of equity. That is a conclusion you make immediately. I hope you can see this. I hope you can see this, ladies and gentlemen. If a company has no debt in their capital structure, and that company is said to be unlevered, or rather ungeared, that company has equity in their capital structure. Equity is ordinary share capital plus reserves. Equity is ordinary share capital plus reserves. Now, the market value of the firm, what I defined last time as V, is the market value of equity. The reason is because the firm has no debt in their capital structure. They only have equity. So the market value of the firm is equal to market value of equity. That's the first conclusion in that for unlevered firm. Secondly, for unlevered firm, the weighted average cost of capital of unlevered firm is equal to cost of equity of unlevered firm. That is a conclusion you arrive at immediately. In the absence of debt in the firm's capital structure, then a company is financed solely by the use of equity, which means that the overall cost of capital of unlevered firm, U stands for unlevered firm, is equal to the cost of equity. Please, these two issues should be very, very, very clear. So I've said that a company which is unlevered or geared is one that is financed solely by the use of equity. They have no debt. And therefore, market value of the firm, number one, is the market value of equity. Two, the weighted average cost of capital of the firm is the cost of equity. Now, when you come to a levered firm, or what sometimes we refer to as a geared firm. Now, this one has debt in its capital structure. A levered firm or a geared firm is a firm that has both equity, is financed by both equity and debt. Company is levered. The company is geared. That means they have both equity and debt finance in their capital structure. So it's important from the onset for us to appreciate these terms. Yeah, so if there is both equity and debt in the firm's capital structure, and that company is said to be ungeared. Now, let me go back to the proposition. I've already told you that this first proposition, MM without taxes, is a capital structure irrelevance theory. And I've said, according to Modigliani and Miller, if there are no taxes in their first theoretical article, capital structure, MM without taxes, their proposition was simple. In the absence of taxes, the capital structure decision is irrelevant. And therefore, the capital structure change will have no effect on value of the firm and will have no effect in weighted average cost of capital. MM went further to point out that we expect unlevered firm and a levered firm to command same value at equilibrium. A point we call equilibrium. Please let that be very, very clear. Equilibrium is a point where a firm is neither overvalued nor undervalued. That's an equilibrium point. So according to Modigliani and Miller, a levered firm and unlevered firm should have the same value. a levered farm and unlevered farm should have the same overall cost of capital. So where the values of the two farms are the same, then the overall cost of capital of the two farms should be the same. However, if the values of the two farms are not equal, then the overall cost of capital of both farms shall not be equal. So where a levered farm and unlevered farm do not have the same value, then that point, MM referred to it as disequilibrium. Disequilibrium. And at that disequilibrium point, then we don't expect the overall cost of capital of both farms to be equal. Now, MM went further to point out that at this disequilibrium point, a levered farm might appear to have a higher value. In this case, L stands for levered farm. Levered farm. U represents unlevered farm. According to Modigliani, and Miller, if a levered farm seemingly has a higher value than unlevered farm, then this is disequilibrium. According to Modigliani and Miller, where the two farms have the same value, that is equilibrium. But if a levered farm has a higher value than a unlevered farm, then that is disequilibrium. Now, Modigliani and Miller argued that if a levered farm seemingly has a higher value than the unlevered farm, then this levered farm is said to be overvalued. The levered farm will be said to be overpriced. At the point of disequilibrium, where VL seemingly is higher than VU, then a levered farm. I've already said L represents levered, U represents unlevered. So at that point, a levered farm is said to be overpriced. In other words, the share of that farm is overvalued. And what happens when a share is overvalued? Do you buy or sell? Is it advisable to buy or sell a share of that farm?
You sell.
You sell, isn't it? Where a share is overvalued, it's advisable to do what? To sell. Very, very correct. And that gentleman has made a very correct observation. So if a share of a levered farm is overpriced, then there are those investors in a levered farm who will soon realize that the share of a levered farm is overpriced. And what will they do? They will decide to make an attempt to switch from a levered farm to an unlevered farm. And what they will do is that they will sell the shares of that farm which is overvalued. They will sell the shares of a levered farm and buy the shares of the unlevered farm. In other words, according to MM, those shareholders will attempt to make a switch from a levered farm to an unlevered farm. MM argued so, that because a share of a levered farm is overpriced at disequilibrium, their shareholders will attempt to make a switch from a levered farm to a unlevered farm. So those shares will sell those shares of a levered farm, that farm which is overpriced, and they went further to argue that such a shareholders will borrow a sum equivalent to how much had been borrowed on his behalf by the management of the levered farm. So shareholders of a levered farm will sell shares of that farm because they are overvalued, borrow a sum equivalent to how much had been borrowed on their behalf by the management of the levered farm, and then make a switch, invest the entire cash proceeds in the levered farm in an effort. While selling those shares to invest, selling the shares of a levered farm so as to invest in the shares of the levered farm, we expect that the market value of a share of a levered farm will come down to equilibrium point where value of a levered farm shall be equal to value of an unlevered farm. Please get that proposition there. Now, that process is referred to as arbitrage process. Arbitrage process, or sometimes referred to as arbitrage mechanism. Arbitrage can be defined as an activity that generates an immediate risk-free profit and occurs in a situation where two identical products, including shares, can be sold at the same market and can be sold in the same market at the same price. It's an activity that generates an immediate risk-free profit, and occurs in a situation where two identical products can be sold in the same market and at the different prices. In the same market, but at the different prices. So this exercise where investors will sell the shares of a levered firm so as to buy the shares of a levered firm can continue. And those investors who realize that and then can continue, and that will have the effect of reducing value of a share of a levered firm to equilibrium point where levered firm and unlevered firm will command the same value. This exercise is what we refer to as a arbitrage process or a arbitrage mechanism. I think these are the stories which you guys have seen in this document. I've explained a lot, but I'm sure you guys have seen those stories in my handout, which I shared with you. Yeah, the first proposition, hiyo mnaona hapo, I think is 1958. Is it 1957 or 1958? Am I forgetting? I think they should be 1958. Ma'am, yeah, 1958 or 57. I need to confirm that. So, hebu tuangalie kwa hiyo handout. Inasema, where there are no taxes, MM's position was that, not position, it's a position. MM's position was that capital structure decision is irrelevant. That's what I've read for you. This means, therefore, that a capital structure decision will have no effect on value of the firm and no effect on its weighted average cost of capital. This therefore implies that a levered firm, a levered and unlevered firm should have the same value at equilibrium. Similarly, weighted average cost of capital of both firms should be equal at equilibrium. A levered firm is one which is financed using a combination of equity and debt capital. But a levered firm, on the other hand, is financed solely by the use of equity. This means that a levered firm does not have debt in its capital structure. I've already emphasized on that. At the point where value of a levered firm seems to be higher than value of a levered firm is said to be overpriced or rather overvalued. This is the point Modigliani and Miller referred to as equilibrium point. According to MM, this situation cannot persist for long because arbitrage process reduce value of a levered firm to equilibrium point where both firms shall command the same value. Arbitrage process only occurs if a levered firm is overpriced. However, whenever a levered firm is overpriced, there will be investors in the company who will soon realize, and this is what I've already explained to you. There's a point here that I want you to see, because these handouts are to be tukiwapatia, mimi najua wengine wasome. Siko hapo tu. Mnasomanga kweli hizi handouts? Mnasomanga kweli? For those who read, that I know. Hata hii handout kuna watu hapa hawajui it exists. I know that. But anyway, let me go through that for you to confirm those points. Arbitrage process only occurs if a levered firm is overpriced. Whenever a levered firm is overpriced, there will be investors in the company who also realize that a levered firm is overpriced, and therefore will attempt to make a switch from a levered firm to a levered firm. That is according to MM. Whether that would happen or not is debatable. Such investors will sell shares of a levered firm and borrow a sum. You see, I've not explained why they are selling, but ideally you can see at the back of the mind as a share of a levered firm is overvalued at this equilibrium. So such investors will sell the shares of a levered firm, borrow a sum equivalent to how much that had been borrowed on his behalf by management of a levered firm, and invest the entire cash proceeds in an unlevered firm. Now, you see, those are assumptions of Franco Modigliani, that you will sell, borrow, and invest in that firm. Whether that were to happen or not, surely, that is a subject of discussion. Yeah. Whether these people were to sell the shares and borrow and invest in the levered farm is a subject of discussion. Now, one thing that you need to appreciate is that the task of making financing decision is a task of the management of the farm. It's not a task of the shareholders. And that's why I'm saying borrow a sum equivalent to how much had been borrowed on his behalf by the management of the levered farm. It's management who makes financing decisions. It's not the shareholders of the farm. So whatever amount of debt that management borrows is borrowed on behalf of the shareholders of the farm. Please, let's get that point clear. Yeah, that is a delegated function. The task of raising funds is a delegated function. So management of a farm will delegate the task of raising funds. The shareholders of the farm will delegate the task of raising funds to the management of the farm. Okay, so it's management who decides how to borrow. Any amount of debt finance management borrows is done on behalf of the shareholders of the farm. So, and that's what I'm emphasizing here. Sell the shares, borrow a sum equivalent to how much which had been borrowed on your behalf. Of course, if you own 10% of the farm, then you can take 10% of debt. If you own 5% of the farm as a shareholder, then you can borrow 5% of debt. That is what was borrowed on your behalf. So how much you realize from the sale of the shares and how much you borrow, you add all that. And we are saying, according to Franco Modigliani and Method Miller, the entire cash proceeds will be invested in the levered farm. Let's continue. As investors of a levered farm sell the shares of a levered farm in order to buy shares of a levered farm, the market price of a share of, this is levered farm. I need to make, I should have shared my book so that I correct there. I need to go back and correct. The market value of a share of a levered farm, hapa, jaribu correct hapo. The market price of a share of a levered farm will come down to equilibrium point where both companies will command same value. I think I forgot to say that this exercise is referred to as arbitrage process. Somebody may say, have I said it earlier? I think I said it earlier. Arbitrage process. This exercise is what is referred to as arbitrage process or arbitrage mechanism. Hiyo story mlikuwa mmeiona kweli? Wenzangu? Mmeshaiona? You can mute yourself kidogo and unmute. Mimi sikuambia mute permanently. What we are against is interference. You can unmute or unmute yourself. There's an illustration here, June 2010, question 3B, which says Baba Limited and Toto Limited are firms operating in the same industry and are considered to be in the same risk class. Each firm generates operating profit of 250 million per annum. Operating profit is earnings before deducting interest and before paying tax. So Baba Limited and Toto Limited. Equity market value. Please notice market value. The market price. Baba Limited 1750, Toto Limited 1,000, of course, in thousands. So it's 1.75 million, 1 million. Debt, 8% debt, trading at. That means the par value is equal to market value. Baba does not have debt. Toto is a debt of 1 million. So the total, Baba 1.75. The market value of data, Baba Limited. Now, this is not Baba Raila, because many times when you hear Baba, anza kufikiria mambo ya Raila, wala sio Baba Raila, it's a company, naitwa Baba. Then there is Toto. So one thing that you can conclude from what we are seeing there quickly is that Baba Limited is unlevered. Here, straight away, there is no debt in its capital structure. Baba is unlevered. Toto is a levered firm. Toto is financed by equity and debt. Therefore, that's a levered firm. But again, what's more important is for you to appreciate that equity is at its market value, market price. So 8% debt trading at par value is equal to market value. Both firms adopt 100% payout ratio as their dividend policy. Okay, there are no corporation taxes. There are no corporation taxes. This is a no corporation taxes to avoid an assumption. But anyway, because it's a MEM without taxes, but I think I should have said specifically, there are no corporation taxes required. Weighted average cost of capital of each of the two firms. Comment on the equilibrium position of the equity shares of the two firms. Advisor Lusa, who holds 4% of Total Limited's equity shares, on arbitrage opportunity available to him. Okay, question number one, weighted average cost of capital of each of the two firms. Of course, this is at disequilibrium. Baba Limited is unlevered. Total Limited is a levered firm. Ukiangalia hapa chini, Baba, the value is 1750. The other one is 2000. The two are not the same. So you conclude that this is disequilibrium. According to MM, both firms should command equal values. So where the value of unlevered firm is not equal to the value of a levered firm, that is a disequilibrium point. And this is what we are seeing. This is basically what we are seeing here. They are not the same. So weighted average cost of capital of the two firms at disequilibrium. Maybe I should have said at disequilibrium. Can make it clear? Disequilibrium point. They change with clear number. Yeah. So weighted average cost of capital of both limited, of both firms. Now you can see here. Oh, I've already clarified down here. Weighted average cost of capital of each firm. This is at the disequilibrium point since value of a levered firm is not equal. Oh, so you're in a manner. Already, I've given a note. Come on, your note. That's here in a manner. I should have made it very clear there. This is at the disequilibrium point since value of a levered firm is not equal to value of a levered firm. Thus, weighted average cost of capital of both firms cannot be equal at that point. Of course, that is what we expect. So to answer Baba, later I talk about it. See you, Baba. There's a better time we talk about Baba Limited. Baba. So weighted average cost of capital for Baba Limited, which is unlevered firm. So where a firm is unlevered, the market value of the firm is equal to market value. I think I've already told you that before, because they have no debt. So VU is equal to S, which is 1750 million. This is the market value of equity, 1.75 million. So in this case, VU stands for unlevered. Market value of unlevered firm is equal to market value of equity. Weighted average cost of capital of unlevered firm should equal to cost of equity of unlevered firm. Now remember, this company is unlevered. And remember, the question says the firm adopts 100% payout as its dividend policy. Net income are all shared as dividends. So from the operating income, you cannot deduct interest because the company does not have debt in their capital structure. I hope some of you could be wondering, why are we not deducting debt, interest in the formula that Mwalimu gave us? The reason is simple. It's because Baba Limited is unlevered. Even if I say the operating income minus interest, there is no interest because the company is unlevered. So operating profit divided by the market value of equity times 100. This is the cost of equity, which is the overall cost of capital. Now the question says operating income is how much? 250 million. Eh? Oh, a mistake up 10. This is 250 million. Did you notice that error? So operating income is 250 million divided by the market value of equity, which we know 1750 million times 100. Does it give us 14.2%?
Yes, 14.2.
Yeah. Do you find
14.2%?
Yes, cost of equity, which is the overall cost of capital. The question is asking for weighted average cost of capital for each of the two firms. So the weighted average cost of capital of Baba Limited is equal to cost of equity, which is 14.2%. That is confirmed. The next is Total Limited, which is a levered firm. Weighted average cost of capital of Total Limited, Toto. See Toto or Toto? Hiyo wengine hapa bado wanaitwa Toto. Ni kweli? Na wale wanaitwa Toto bado eh? Wengine kwa hii class wanaitwa Toto kwa nyumbani. Kwa naitwa Toto ukikuwa mdogo, sasa atomekuwa mkubwa bado wanaitwa Toto. Eh? So this is a formula, the weighted average cost of capital of a levered firm. So you pick the cost of equity of a levered firm. The cost of equity of a levered firm, which is your formula. Let me adjust here kidogo so that we differentiate. What has happened? So cost of equity of a levered firm times S over V. The S over V, I explained that last time. Market value weight of equity plus KD. Remember, I'm not saying KDT because there are no taxes in MM1. Before tax cost of debt times B over V, market value weight of debt. It's important for us to realize that we need to work out the cost of equity of a levered firm. So you take the formula. Those formulas I gave you last time, earnings, operating income of a levered firm minus interest divided by the market value of equity. This formula, I think I shared when I was going through the traditional theories of capital structure. In the question, operating income for both firms is 250 million. I think this was very, very clear. Here, each firm generates operating profit of 250 million. Sasa tunachukua 250 minus interest. Total is a levered firm. You can see 8% debt, trading at par. Meaning, par value is equal to market value. But remember, interest is not based on the market value. Interest is based on par value, or rather the face value. If you take 8% of 1 million is what? How much interest is payable by total? 8% of 1 million?
80 million.
80. Yeah, so 250 million, that 8 million, that should be 170 million, eh? Isn't it? Divided by S, market value of equity. From this question here, the market value of equity of total is this, 1 million, eh? The market value of equity of total is 1 million times 100. Is the cost of equity 17%? Of a levered firm? Can you please confirm? The cost of equity of a levered firm, is it 17%? Jackson has been doing a very good job for us. Jackson, you go up quick.
Yeah, it is 17.
The cost of equity of a levered firm is 17%. Eh? Now we go back to the normal formula for finding weighted average cost of capital. So cost of equity upper here is 17 S over V. So as a S market value of equity, it's 1 million. in S, in B, in V. So S over V is 1 over 2. S over V, the market value weight of equity. It's 1 divided by 2, 0.5. Eh? That looks like 0.5. Pre-tax cost of debt, 80%. I mean 0.5. The overall cost of capital is 12.5%. Will you please confirm weighted average cost of capital of a levered farm at this equilibrium point? Is it 12.5%?
Yeah.
That is correct, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I clarified this, that we don't expect the overall cost of capital to be the same because this is disequilibrium. And I think I've already, look at number B, already clarified that. Number B of the question is asking for what? Comment on the equilibrium position of the equity shares of the two firms. What have we said? What happens at equilibrium? In the absence of taxes, we have said the market value of both firms will be equal and the overall cost of capital of both firms will be equal. I've said here at equilibrium point, MM's position was that in the absence of taxes, value of a levered firm shall equal to value of a levered firm. That is, VL is equal to VU, which is 1750. Now, when you look at the original question, according to Franco Modigliani, Toto is overvalued. If you look at the values of these two firms here, the value of Baba is 1.75 million. Toto is 2 million. According to Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller, Toto is overvalued. Arbitrage will have the effect of reducing value of Toto Limited to equilibrium point. So the 2 million will come down to 1.75 million. And that's what I'm saying, that at equilibrium, value of a levered farm shall equal to value of a levered farm, which is 1750. Okay. Is that correct? Or 1.75? Hii mnakubaliana mimi kweli? Is it 1750 million or 1.75 million?
1.75.
I hope hiyo era mlikuwa mmeona eh? Mkisoma eh? Hakuna mtu ameniuliza mwalimu na hapa kuna namna gani? Hakuna mtu. See, that is confirmed ya msomo. Mjasoma hii handout. At least mtu alikuwa
tumetumia 1750 million.
Hapana, huwezi kuwa 1750 million. Afadhali. Hata hapa ni 1.
For question paper ni 1750.
Mwalimu, it is 1750 million.
For question paper ni 1750.
This is in the millions, not thousands.
Yes, it's supposed to be in millions.
In the question paper. Oh, yangu, kama nimebadilisha yangu eh? Okay, so we change here to million. Change hapa juu. Iwe million eh?
Yes, inafaa kuwa millions.
In million.
Yeah.
Hivyo?
Yeah, in millions.
Oh. Mimi najua zina question paper with me, so sawa, kama iko hivyo basi nibadilisha hapo eh. Oh, that's why you kept quiet eh? Okay. Then kama iko namna hiyo sawa. Mimi naweza toa hiyo dot hapo eh. Okay. Wewe hiyo iko sawa eh? 1750 million eh? So value of a levered farm should equal to value of a levered farm 1750. So that is equilibrium. With comment on the equilibrium position. Value of a levered farm should equal to value of a levered farm. So you see, arbitrage will reduce value of a levered farm to equilibrium, where both farms will command equal value. So what is the weighted average cost of capital of both farms at equilibrium? Let's recompute now. At equilibrium, start with the Baba Limited. So kama ni Baba Raira, kampuni ya Baba Raira. Do you think there will be a change in the overall cost of capital of Baba Limited? No change, because the operating profit has not changed, and the value of a levered farm has not changed. So I don't have to waste time. I don't have to waste time. by the way, what I've done, what I'm working out, I want to justify this argument of Franco Modigliani and Miller. The question says comment on the equilibrium. Comment. So value of both firms will be equal. Weighted average cost of capital is equal. You stop there. But I've gone further. I want to justify the argument of Franco Modigliani. That's why I'm asking the question, what are the weighted average cost of capital of both firms at equilibrium point? Hiyo ni mambo yangu nimeleta. Hiyo sio mambo ya swali. Fadhali eh? Swali tulimalizana naye. Tuko pamoja? Ukiulizwa swali kama hii kwa mtihani, wacha kuleta mambo yako. Wewe jibu ile umeulizwa Hii mambo nimeleta, hapa ni mambo yangu I want to confirm, is it true that the weighted average cost of capital of both firms are equal at equilibrium point? So for Baba Limited, no change in the overall cost of capital. Total Limited, we have to recompute the overall cost of capital. Notice that at equilibrium, the value of a levered firm now will have come down to 1750 million. Hence, market value of equity is residual. Tafadhali chungana sana hapa Hiyo ni mtego Unajua kuna mitego. Ile mitego nilikuwa nawaambia class. Hii subject iko na mitego mingi Na ile mitego usipoona hiyo mtego unaanguka hapo na huwezi amuka. Jackson, has it happened to you in the past?
Definitely.
Ushaanguka mahali ukashindwa kuamuka?
Yeah.
I'm not praying in the past. Has it happened? Dorcas, has it happened to you? By any chance? Elizabeth, mambo kama hii imetendeka, umeenda ukapata shida, umeingia kwa anguka chini ukashindwa kuamuka mahali Once in a while, these are challenges that can happen in life, but I'm not praying that they occur. Hapo kuna mtego, tafadhali muangalie mzuri Kuna mtego Now that the value of a levered farm has come down to equilibrium, which is 1750, then that affects the market value of equity. Remember, we are at equilibrium. Not it is equilibrium. Arbitrage. I'm assuming that arbitrage has reduced the value of a levered farm to 1750. If that is the case, then if you take 1750 minus market value of debt, that should give you equity. And this is the point. Hence, market value of equity is residual. Wacha niongeze sauti kidogo. Hiyo mtego watu wengi hawanangi. That is why nimeongeza sauti kidogo So market value of equity 1750 million, the equilibrium value of a levered farm minus market value of debt, that is 750 million. If the market value of equity has changed, then that influences the cost of equity. Definitely, the cost of equity of a levered farm will change. So cost of equity of a levered farm is operating income and as interest divided by market value of equity. Now that equity is residual, we have to compute the cost of equity of a levered farm. By the way, it's important, we have to recognize there's a lady here from Kitengela part-time, Eunice Mutizi. I've seen her. Karibu sana, madam. I don't know whether your colleague Felix is around. Limona last class. Felix yuko kutoka Kitengela. Felix is around also. Eunice, you are there?
Yes.
Karibu, karibu, karibu. I saw you coming in. I saw Felix last time. Leo sijamuona. Okay, so the cost of equity of a levered farm must change now that the market value of equity has changed. So operating income is 250 million minus interest payable by a levered farm divided by, there is an error. Is your 1,000, see equity ilirudi chini to 750. Hizo errors mlikuwa mnaona kweli wenzangu? 750. Oh, chini iko sawa Now, this is a lot of work. I have to go to my book again and check, correct those mistakes there, the book that I'm doing. So for those of you who will be proceeding to BCom, I think I will have published my book. Mtanunua. Kuna kitabu unafanya. So when it is ready, I hope you will promote me by buying, Unaenda kutumia huko kwa BCom, na masters, Mtanunua kweli? Mtanunua, mko selfish namna hii, mtaki kumnipromote, Yeah, there's a book. So I expect in the next 3-4 months, I'm doing some research on a few topics. Nikimaliza, I want to publish it. So if you'll be interested, please get in touch. I think it's a good book. Hata hiyo kazi vile mnaiona hizo topics, mnaona the way I've organized them. Si hata unaweza soma tu, na upite mtihani. Jackson.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good.
In the next 3 months, I think I will have published this book.
Okay.
So ningependa na nyinyi mnipromote na marafiki zenu. We continue dying poor, the way lecturers die poor. So I told even professors are poor. People rich in knowledge, but very poor in the pocket. Anyway, book will be ready. Anybody will be interested to buy? After 3 months, I think, by view, I'll be done with it, publish it. Mtahitaji marafiki yako, sawa, mtaniambia. Okay, so hapa kulikuwa na mtego. Hiyo mtego nafikiri mmeiona, Je, mmeona hiyo mtego, Mmeona hiyo mtego? Communication, effective communication, there has to be feedback. Hiyo ndio nilifundishwa kitambo na mwalimu wangu wa communication, That effective communication requires that there is feedback, There's a sender, there's a receiver, there is a medium, and feedback. Are those the components of communication, Jackson? Mimi nilifundishwa kitambo na mwalimu wangu wa communication hizo mambo, Kitambo. So is cost of equity of a levered farm now at equilibrium 22.7? Can you confirm?
Yeah.
The cost of equity of a levered farm at equilibrium?
22.7.
Yes.
Correct. Now, weighted average cost of capital of a levered farm, we recompute it now. Cost of equity is 22.7 in bracket. Remember, the market value of equity is residual, 750 divided by the market value of a levered farm at equilibrium plus pre-tax cost of debt, the market value of debt that did not change, divided by that. Do we find 14.3%? Does it give you 14.3%?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, look at the observation now. Very important observation. Baba, the market value of Baba Limited at equilibrium, 1750 million. Total Limited, 1750 million. At equilibrium, the values are the same. What has happened to the overall cost of capital at equilibrium? They are the same, isn't it? Sio mmeona? Hapa ni 14.3, ile ingine haiku change, they're the same. So this confirms MM's argument that in the absence of taxes, a capital structure decision is irrelevant. A levered farm and unlevered farm should command equal values at equilibrium. Similarly, both farms should command equal weighted average cost of capital at equilibrium point. I was trying to prove the proposition of Modigliani and Miller. Hiyo hatukuuliza kwa swali, wenzangu. I was trying to confirm the argument, which we have confirmed. Are we together up to that point? Je, tuko pamoja mpaka hapo?
Yes.
Haya. Allow me to answer the last question, please. And waache mwenda kunywa chai, hata mimi sijakunywa chai. Advisor Lusa, who holds 4% of Total Limited's equity shares on arbitrage opportunity available to him. A loser who owns 4% of Total Limited. Now, can you see? Total is overvalued. And I told you, arbitrage only arises if a levered firm is overvalued. Arbitrage does not occur if both firms have the same value. So in this case, if Total Limited is overpriced, then a loser can sell the shares, her shares in Total Limited, borrow a sum equivalent to how much had been borrowed on his behalf, debt finance, and then invest the entire cash proceeds in Total Limited. So that is the arbitrage opportunity, which we are expected to justify here. In the absence of taxes, I think I've tried to explain again, MM's position was that if value of a levered firm is greater than value of a levered firm, then a levered firm is said to be overpriced. Sio ndio tumeona hapo juu. A levered firm is considered overpriced. Hii ndio mambo nilikuwa nasema hapa. If value of a levered firm is more than value of a levered firm, then that company is said to be overpriced. The 200 million is more than the 1750 million. Okay. Internet connection inakuwa unstable namna gani na watu walikuwa hapa jana. Thus, a loser who owns 4% of Total Limited can sell all. Is a loser a man or a lady, in your opinion? This looks like a lady, eh? Those who come from Luya na Luoland. You are loser, ni mtu kutoka Luo, Jackson. Ama ni Mluya?
That one is a Luya.
Alusa, huyu anaweza kuwa Luo. Alusa is a lady, isn't it?
It's a Luya.
Yeah. Hii ni jina ya kijana ama msichana? Alusa huko.
Mimi najua Alusa mwanamke, lakini sijui kama ni surname ama si surname.
Oh, so that's why I'm doubting here. Sell his. That's why I thought I should have said sell her shares. Eh? Should I change that to sell her shares? Eh? A loser who owns 4% of Total Limited can sell all her shares in Total Limited and realize what? A loser owns 4%. 4% of this overvalued firm. 4% of this equity. If he owns 4% of Total Limited, then you take 4% of the market value. Akiuza hizo shares atapata ngapi? 4% of 1,000 million. A loser owns 4% of Total, and the market value of equity of the shares is 1,000 million. So 4% of akiuza atapata ngapi? 4% of 1,000 million. Atapata ngapi? 40 million, eh?
Yeah.
Huyu Jackson akipata amechukua. He's a very ambitious lady, eh? India. No. Kuuza hizo shares namna hii 400 million, 40 million, eh? A loser can then borrow a sum equivalent to how much? I'm trying to demonstrate the arbitrage process, how it works according to MM. So a loser can then borrow a sum equivalent to how much had been borrowed on her behalf. This is a lady. So on her behalf, by the management of Total Limited. How much debt finance had been borrowed by the management? Remember we said it's the role of management of a firm to make financing decisions. So they borrow debt. Management of Total borrowed debt of 1,000 million on behalf of the shareholders. Management of Total Limited borrowed 1,000 million on behalf of the shareholders of Total Limited. And one of these shareholders is Alusa, who owns 4%. So how much do they borrow on her behalf? Again, is 4% of the amount of debt, 4% of 1,000 million. That should be how much? Borrowed on her behalf by the management, that is 4% of 1,000 million. Next time, I think I'll share the whole book. So I correct it. 4% of 1,000 million. So how much will the Arusa borrow? 40 million again, eh? Sasa kama ameuza shares 40 million and has borrowed 40 million. Yote pesa yote ukijumuiza inakuwa ngapi? 80 million? Sindio?
Yeah, 80 million.
80 million, eh? Omar. Huyu Omar akipata si anachukua tu. Alusa huyu ni wakina Omar, eh? Omar Alio. How are you? Omar Alio.
I'm fine.
Huyu ukipata si utanyakua bwana. Huyu utawacha kweli huyu Alusa? Na? Hata Gibson Karara akipata amenyakua. How are you, Gibson Karara?
I'm fine, mwalimu. Kupita naye kabisa.
Huyu ukipata utawachana naye kweli? He's ambitious lady.
Niacha.
So anyway, I want you to conceptualize and understand the argument of these guys, eh? Kwa sababu hujui hii mitihani ya kazi na vile itakaa, mitihani which is very unpredictable. So you see, that was the argument of Franco Modigliani. Sell shares of the overvalued firm, borrow. So Alusa now has a total of 80 million shillings. According to Franco Modigliani and Milton Miller, the entire cash proceeds of 8 million will be invested in the unlevered firm. In other words, those who sell shares of a levered firm buy shares of a levered firm. But there is something that is not connecting well in this concept of Franco Modigliani and Milton Miller. If the shares of a levered firm will come down as a result of selling those shares by shareholders to buy the shares of a levered firm, why are we assuming that a share of a levered firm will remain constant? Are you guys seeing a disconnect there? You are selling shares of a levered firm to buy shares of a levered firm. Then the share of a levered firm will come down. That is proper. But why is a share of a levered firm remaining constant? That is a gap in this proposition that Franco Modigliani and Milton Miller cannot explain. It's a shortcoming. So in future, when you guys go to do your PhDs in finance, you can critique this paper on that ground. Eh? Or even this exam, we need to ask in future, what are the criticisms of MM1 proposition? Yeah? Or shortcomings of MM1 with access proposition. Yeah? So Alusa's income position can be analyzed as follows. Now let's compare Alusa's income position. How much income is Alusa currently getting from Total Limited? How much income will Alusa realize from Baba Limited? We look at now comparatively. Now Alusa owns 4%. Let's see share of income in Total Limited. Currently, Alusa is a shareholder in Total Limited. Alusa owns 4%. Now, Total Limited generates 250 million operating income, and they are paying interest of 80 million. Eh? So how much is the net income of this firm? 250 million minus 18 ngapi? 170 million. Eh? And this firm adopts 100% payout as its dividend policy. That means all those earnings are shared. Sio mliona kutoka kwa swali wenzangu? Mliona kutoka kwa swali hapa juu?
Yeah.
Both firms adopt 100% payout as the dividend policy. Sio mliona hapo kitambo So 250 minus 80, all the earnings are shared. 170 million. But this guy owns 4%. And remember, there are no taxes here. So 4% of that means Alusa is currently earning net income of 6.8 million annually from Total Limited. Is that correct? Can you please confirm using your calculators?
Yes.
So if Alusa does not make a switch, then she will continue realizing that income each year. Now, suppose Alusa now invests in Baba Limited. Share of income in Baba Limited. So we know the assumption that all the 8 million will be invested in Baba Limited. That is the assumption. Hey, Angela. Meamuka? Usalimia wanafunzi wangu. Usalimia wanafunzi wangu hapa. Ngoja nimalize kuwafundisha kwanza. Yeah. So share of income in Baba Limited. So now when Alusa moves to Baba Limited, you know, the 80 million shilling will be invested in Baba Limited. The first thing that you need to do is to find the return on investment. So if Alusa takes all the 8 million, Baba Limited, what return does she get from investment? 8 million divided by the value of unlevered farm, which you know is 1750 times 100. A return of 4.6%. Is that correct? Expected return on investment in Baba Limited, is it 4.6%?
Yes.
Yes.
Has it improved? Current return is 4%, relatively. So if you are to compare with the other one, is share of control. Or let me put it differently. Some people could say this is now is control. Although I've seen some books talk about return on investment. This is control. I think it's the same thing. Control has improved. He owned 4%, now 4.6%. Worked out as a return on investment. So the gross share of income is 4.6% of earnings of that farm, 250 million. Remember, Baba Limited is unlevered. So 250 million is the net income. No interest is payable. So 4.6% of 250 million, does it give us 11.5?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Does it give us 11.5 million? Correct. Deduct interest on that debt amount borrowed. Remember, we said Alusa will borrow an equivalent of how much management of a farm had borrowed on his behalf? 40 million at 8%. So 8% of 40 million, how much interest is payable? Is it 3.2 million? Unapata 3.2 million.
Yeah.
That's what's the net income of Alusa? 8.3 million.
Yeah.
So that's the net income. Do you think Alusa's income will improve? What was her income in Total Limited? 6.8 million. But if you make a switch to Total Limited, the income is 8.3 million. So clearly, Alusa's share of income will improve by 1.5 million. Is that correct? Difference between 8.3 million and 6.8 million. Isn't it?
Yes.
So therefore, this profit realized is 1.5 million. The question was saying arbitrage opportunity available to Alusa. It's basically her income position will improve by 1.5 million. Is the concept making sense, ladies and gentlemen? Mimi naomba sasa muendelee kuangalia hii MM2. Sitaki kupita hapo. Today I wanted to talk about that MM1. Kama mko na nguvu ya kuendelea to MM2. I think for today that is okay. Tusije tukakimbia tukapoteza wengine. Mimi naomba muendelee kuangalia hii MM2. I derived it, yeah? This is for the purpose of my book. I've derived the model for the purpose of my book. This is MM2, but what is more important is the model, V model. VL is VU plus BT. See you to find next time, eh? MM2, MM3, and MM4. That's how, eh? These notes are self-explanatory, very self-explanatory. Tafadhali endelea kupitia MM2. MM3 ndio hiyo. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. Oh, your question paper. Sikutype hiyo swali hapo. Oh, iko swali iko. Kasine MM3, so now I've explained. Actually, I've explained these things very, very well. Tafadhali endelea kupitia so that next time we can wind up with these theories, eh? Kesho. Tomorrow morning, I'll finish with MM2, MM3, and MM4. Sindio? MM2. Ndio hiyo, nimeendelea, nimederive the model. I picked June 2015 from the past paper, I've answered it. Nimetype swali, na kunajibu. Kaendelea kidogo, hiyo ni MM2. Nikaenda MM3 with corporation and personal tax rates, nika explain, nikawapatia formula, nikaenda December 2010, question 5B and C. Honestly, hii hata mtu zinaweza kaa tu asome tu. You don't want to give a chance. Tukaenda the final MM4 of 1984. Taxes and financial distress costs, nika explain, nikaenda swali December 2007. Hii story zote mmeona wenzangu. Na swali na nikajibu. Mmeziona, eh? And then of course other theories of capital structure. Hiyo story zote mmeziona. So let me stop there for now. Tomorrow, what time do you want us to meet? From 9?
Yeah, same time.
From 9, eh?
Yes.
I request that you go through so that I summarize and finish this discussion tomorrow, eh? Okay? PTA your document so that I summarize on MM2, MM3, and MM4. Tomorrow tumalizane, eh? Sasa?
Yeah.
Jackson, I'm going to send you a recording again, as usual, so that if you want to kupitia tena, unaweza ipitia, and we can assist those who did not attend. Is that okay?
Okay.
Sasa nyinyi tafuta chai mkunywe.
Muhimu.
Hata mimi hoja nitafuta chai nikunywe. But please be very careful with these MMs, eh? Have you realized it's a very fertile ground for examinations?
It's a very bad area.
Have you realized that this area features very frequently MM1, MM2, MM3, MM4? Go angalia your past papers. Just angalia. It's a fertile area for examinations, eh? So please take a lot of care. Unless there is any pressing issue, I want to request. Now that I've been unwell, I need some prayer here from somebody. Rachel, Please give us a prayer so that I continue becoming well. Tuendelee kupona ndio tuendelee kumaliza hii syllabus. There's a fellow here anaitwa Rachel. I think she's capable of giving us a prayer.
Okay, let's pray.
Yes.
Okay. Father, we come before you, say thank you for the bread of life this morning, for granting us to meet in our class and have a little lecture. We, the teacher who is not been feeling well, guide him and protect him all the way through. As we continue to prepare for exams, be with us and lead us all the way through to the end. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Rachel. So, do you allow me to end the meeting? Am I allowed to end the meeting now?
Yeah, sawa mwalimu.
Yeah.